Hello, everyone. Today we're going to have a quick look at Power Automate. Now, Power Automate is a very powerful tool in Microsoft 365. Comes with even your basic license. There are some premium versions of it, but the one I'm showing you today is the basic one that does a lot for you in terms of automating day-to-day tasks in Microsoft 365. So we're going to take a look at an example. We'll build an example together, a simple example, and I'll show you some of the main constructs and concepts around Power Automate to get you started quickly here on this great little tool. All right. So here in the modern sandbox, one of my test sites here is a list called projects. And we've got a project name, a status field, and a project manager field. So let's say that when the status changes to started, we're going to email the project manager. Okay, so we'll set an automatic email function using Power Automate. This is a very simple flow. Let's get into it. So we're going to go up to the waffle at the top left, and I'm going to choose Power Automate. Now this is the Power Automate, or you see the address is make.powerautomate.com, and it opens up in the home screen looking for the old Copilot to generate. Now, great tool. I'm going to show you how to use Power Automate, the straightforward. Let's get into it because I want to show you some concepts. Notice there are a lot of templates here, starting points. So each one of these will give you a Power Automate pre-built, and then you just have to go and configure it. So a lot of configuration still. I'm going to go back to create, and we'll create a simple Power Automate. Now, the first thing with a Power Automate is to recognize that something triggers the flow to start. So they're called Power Automate flows, and the flow must start based on a trigger condition. So the main triggers here are automated cloud flow by a designated event. I'll show you that. One is the one we're going to use. There's an instant cloud flow, which is like a button flow. So it'll start when you click a button. That button might be in a SharePoint list, which is pretty cool. It might be on a SharePoint site, or it might be just a go into the flow and click start when you need to run it. And then there's a scheduled cloud flow type, which will run the flow on a scheduled basis every hour, 3 times a week, or every once a year, whatever you need. So the automated cloud flow is the one we use the most. So that's what I'm going to use down here. So first of all, we need to give the flow a name. So this is running on the projects list. So I like to use this kind of construct to say the name of the list and a colon, and what does the flow do? So give it a good name. That you'll see in the flow, my flows screen, they're not very well organized. It's just the recent ones on top. They're not folders or anything. So give it a good name. Now, before we can get started, we could have to tell it how to get started. So this is how is this flow triggered? So notice the top one here is Microsoft Forms. I've used that one recently. When a list item is created in SharePoint, or when an item is created or modified in SharePoint. So we're going to use this created or modified one to trigger on our projects list. So when a project list item is created or modified, okay, so this is the Power Automate build screen, or the designer. Notice at the top right, this is the new designer. There's an old designer as well. Copilot pops up every time. We're not going to use Copilot to help us this time. That'll be a future video. And all I have is a start condition here, the trigger condition when an item is created or modified. So if I click on there, a panel drops up to the left-hand side. And first of all, notice at the top here, I can modify this. So I'll say a projects list item, created or modified. And as soon as I click away, that will be saved. There it is. Now it's saying invalid parameters because I haven't filled this in yet. So I have to tell it which project list. So I'm going to go to the Modern Sandbox. That's the name of my SharePoint site. And I get to choose the list name here. And it's called projects. Okay. Okay, so now I'm telling the Power Automate flow to start whenever a project list item on this site is created or modified. Great. So now what we get to do is add actions with this plus sign. So when I click plus, it comes up with a dialog, and I find this dialog to be a little tedious sometimes, so bear with it. I've got a few favorites at the top here. That's pretty handy. Otherwise, would generally search. So what we said is when the project list item status changes to started, we're going to email the project manager. So let's add a condition here to check if that status field is started. Okay, so now it's dropped that condition action in here, and you can see how the flow starts to build up like a flow chart. So the condition action, I've got that highlighted right now. So it's showing me what are the parameters for the condition action. So I'm going to say that the status is equal to started. Okay, when the status is equal to started, and then the condition, there's two branches, the true and false branch. So if this condition is true, it goes down here. If it's false, it goes down here. So we said we're going to email. So let's search for an email action. And here it is, send an email V2. The V2 one is the one to use. And now that's dropped in there. So see how the little pluses show up everywhere that you can drop actions in. Okay, so I'm going to configure this one. And I'll say send an email to the PM. And it's going to go to here. And I could just type my name in here, like hard-coded. It knows about the Active Directory. But really what I want to do is go over here and say use dynamic content, because I want to send it to the project manager. So when you click into a field that has dynamic content, it will have a lightning bolt to enter data from previous steps and a FX to enter functions. So for this tutorial, I'm just going to use the lightning bolt, and I'm going to say, I'm going to email the project manager. Now notice, oh, project manager claims, display name, email. So that project manager field is actually a field with many subtypes to it, and it's the email address of that subtype that I want, okay? If I just hover over here, I see trigger body, which is the data from here, project manager email. So I'm pulling in the project manager email into this to field. The subject, let's grab the project title, project name, and say has started. So we can build a subject line like that, and then we put some more details here. I'm not going to do anything there. Notice I can format and stuff as well. Now, down at the bottom, there's advanced parameters. So this is kind of like the main stuff you need up here, but you can also show all, and let's see the advanced parameters. Who's it coming from, CC, blah, 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 all this stuff. So let's go down and change this importance to high importance, sure. Okay, so it's a little bit paint by numbers, but that is the fundamental flow here. So when this item is modified, if the status is started, then send an email. All right, I'm going to save it, save that flow, and we're going to test. Now this is going to produce an error, and I'll show you why. So testing the flow manually, the first time I'm running it, there are no previous runs. So manually perform the starting action to trigger it. Okay, so the starting action, perform the starting action, is to create or modify something in this list. Okay, so let's use this first one and switch it to started. And let me exit grid view. And then we're going to go back to see what happens. That's the starting condition. Something's modified in this list. Now, don't despair, because this can take a little while to start, a couple of minutes, while Powder Automate just kind of monitors the list. But there it goes. And let's see what happened. Okay, so now you can see the flow ran successfully. Good news. And you can see check marks or other indicators on these different actions to show what happened. So This one was successful and ran in 0.2 seconds. Then the condition was successful in 0 seconds, but it went to the false branch. This one was not executed, it was skipped. I wonder what happened. So here's where we can start looking at the data that was produced in the flow run. So let me click on this trigger condition and let me scroll down to outputs, see what outputted. So this is the data that was returned when the flow started. And the body section is all of the data from the list. So here's the title, Academic Building Corp SharePoint Intranet, and the status shows as started. Oh, but look, this is a complex structure. It's not just a simple field like this where status is started, but there's more to it. So a status field consists of an OData type, an ID, and a value. So it's actually the value that I need to refer to in my flow. Well, let's try it out. I'm going to edit this, and let's see how that looks. Okay, so in the condition, I'm just checking for trigger body status, but we know now that that's a complex object. We need status value. So let me delete that and go back in to select something else. And it's this. Notice there's status and there's a status value. Let me click on that one. And now if I hover over it, you'll see it says status/value. So it's kind of like the sub type is equal to started. Okay, let's try again. And this time we'll be able to test and manually again, save and test. Okay, so it's waiting. I'm going to go back here and I'll use the same one and I'll edit it. I'll just put the word test on the end here. So something's modified in the list just for testing. Okay, status is started. So it should work this time. Let's go back and take a look. The flow ran successfully. So same thing here, pulling the data in. Now the condition ran successfully, and now the send email has also run. So we know that it's come down this path. So let's take a look at that send email. So down here, the inputs, it's sending to Jerry, and here's the subject line and the body, and importance high. So it's sent successfully. Hooray. So that is a very, very basic flow to give you some concepts here. When you're in the flow editor, you could also use some of these tools here to expand or contract all action groups. You can zoom in. You can also use control mouse wheel to zoom. This is zoom to view fit, which is kind of nice. Let me make it really small and then zoom to fit. And then you can search, and you can search for particular things. So maybe I'm looking for send. Okay, so that can be quite useful for larger flows. All right, I hope that's useful for you to get you started with the Power Automate. Reach out if you have any questions or comments. I'm happy to help. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe and let me know how it's working for you. This is Jerry Brimacombe signing off for the moment. Bye for now.